Thomas. We are once again joining you for our Sunday afternoon stream, give you a glimpse of the week ahead. Now, it just so happens this week we got a little bit more to talk about than we do sometimes. It feels like I've been saying that so far for the first 2 Sundays of this month of March, but spring has sprung. The clock sprung forward overnight. We get that first 7 o'clock sunset today. We got a nice day to enjoy it, but over the week ahead, conditions are changing again. We have more opportunity for rain and even possible severe weather in the forecast. So we're going to break down what we know so far about the top of the week. I do want to give you a little glimmer of good news before we get into the detail. It does look like headed into next weekend, things are drier and it'll be a better weekend to spend the whole time outside. But we do have to get through again the top half of the week. So as early as Monday through the middle part of the work week on Wednesday. Actually, let me pause because I didn't also give my disclaimer. While I'm talking, if you have any questions about anything I'm saying, this stream usually goes to THV11 Plus, our Facebook and our YouTube. If you're watching on THV11 Plus, well, you could text us those questions at 501-376-1111. And if you're on the Facebook or the YouTube stream, you can just leave your question in the comments. I do have the comment section up on all of our platforms, so I can make sure I get to those questions. Those are always very helpful when we are doing severe weather coverage. So even though right now isn't as much of a high intensity event, do want to be able to answer your questions so everybody is prepared for the week ahead. So back to what I was about to say, starting Monday through at least Wednesday, the first half of the week, we're going to have rain chances in the forecast. Some thunderstorms are likely. There is some juice there to see some strong to severe storms. All modes of severe weather look likely between at least Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is still considered long range, so we'll get more detail about Wednesday as we get into tomorrow, but we got to cover tomorrow because of course that starts our week. We also are going to have some minor flooding concerns with this as well. So with yesterday morning's event, there was that flooding threat there, and we saw some localized flooding events. I know there was a flash flood warning for portions of west central Arkansas, and we got images of really bad ponding on the roadways in Hot Springs. Saw here personally some of those impacts in Little Rock. So although it might not have been widespread, a few people were impacted, and we're going to have a scenario like that again for this first half of the week. Like I mentioned, though, the good news is headed into next weekend, things do start to dry up. So at least while you're at work, that's when things are rainy. You get some more sunshine by the time you get to enjoy your days off. Here's what things look like right now this afternoon. We started the day with some clouds, a little mist outside, but we've been trying to push those clouds out of here from the southeast as some high pressure is in the vicinity, but we are tracking again partly sunny to mostly sunny skies across the state. We've got a couple more hours of sunshine to push the rest of these clouds out here. So by the time the sun sets after 7 o'clock, we'll have a beautiful view. Temperatures are cooler than what we've seen in recent days. We've had a lot of days in the 70s and even 80s. Now we're a little bit closer to where we actually should be for this time of year, upper 50s, low to middle 60s, 57 right now in Little Rock. And I do think that is mostly because we've got additional clouds that some of our neighbors say in Fayetteville don't have, up to 68, in Fayetteville, up to 71 in Texarkana farther west with limited clouds. Pine Bluff, Monticello, similar range, 60, 61 with those additional clouds. But again, pushing those clouds out of here through the evening. Winds starting to come from the southeast as opposed to the southwest, where we're seeing winds coming from now. Overnight, looking again to see mainly clear skies, and we'll have clouds building again by tomorrow afternoon as the next round of rain starts to move through. So the rain and the storms we saw Saturday morning, what started the weekend, was with the storm system and a cold front moving through the state. That cold front stayed south of us, but now it's going to start to transition north as a warm front bringing warmer air into the state. As it does so, that's what triggers the setup for some of those thunderstorms. And we see that translate with the temperatures because we're back in the middle and upper 70s tomorrow. Tuesday going to be another juicy day in the 80s. And then when you factor in the instability and the different lift mechanisms we have, that does also give you the opportunity for those thunderstorms. And then again into Wednesday, as our next cold front is then trying to approach again to bring another bout of cooler air, we'll continue to see the ingredients for possible thunderstorms. Because Monday is day 2, that's considered a little bit closer range. We have more high resolution information to look at for Monday. We're going to start talking very deeply about Monday. We will touch Tuesday and Wednesday, but this is our updated severe weather risk map for Monday. If you were watching any of the broadcasts yesterday, we had mainly the marginal risk for the state. So the update that came out this morning is we now have that slight risk that does include the Little Rock Metro, a lot of places around central Arkansas, and then southern and southeastern Arkansas. If we break that down specifically by impacts, this is what it looks like. The hail threat is going to be our biggest threat tomorrow afternoon and evening with these storms rolling in. It does look like there will be discrete individual supercells with enough instability to drive those higher updrafts and getting those larger hailstones. We've got that hatched risk. We've talked about that hatched or that dashed risk indicating significant severe parameters. Significant severe hail in this case is 2-inch size hail or greater. So the greater threat of that will be for areas shaded in the yellow with the dash. But again, even in areas surrounding in the gray that still have the dash, the risk might be lower to see hail. But if you get hail, there is the potential for it to be on the larger side. Now, the tornado threat with this is not 0, but it is very low. 2% chance of a tornado across the southernmost half of the state. Winds, those severe winds, that is a marginal threat across the state. Again, this does look like an instability driven situation that is going to give us larger hail. This was a handy dandy map that meteorologist Nathan Scott made earlier this morning. Just also another way to highlight areas across the state that have the ingredients there to see that large, lofty hail size. Again, 2 inches, up to 2 inches is some of the biggest hail that could be possible tomorrow. Here's another handy, oh, this went forward on me. Here is another handy tool or graphic we use sometimes to pinpoint more of the hail potential. The shading, we've talked about this before last spring when we would do some of these streams, but refreshing your memory, and if you're somebody that is just now joining in on one of these, you have that legend at the top that gives you the white grayish color hail possible. Once you get into the teal blues, 1-inch size hail is very likely. 1-inch size or that quarter size hail is the size you need to be declared a severe thunderstorm. Well, then once you get into the purples, 2-inch size hail, that's the scenario that we're looking at tomorrow with this event. Then you have those oranges colors, that's even bigger, closer to 3 to 4 inches, and then the black bigger hail, 2-inch hail would be the possibility with the orange or the red, but it's more likely that you would see that larger hail size with those colors. Typically, at least what I've seen when we've done these streams, at most we've seen some of these purples and these oranges, but we're going to walk through what it looks like for Monday's event alongside the timing of when storms could start to develop in the state. So this is Monday morning, 6 a.m. People are either starting to wake up and get ready for work and school, or you're sending kids to the bus stop, or you're dropping them off at school. A lot of people are up and getting their week started Monday morning. There is a little bit of juice there for hail possible to hail likely, at least 1-inch size hail across the southwestern half of the state. Definitely the southwestern most part of the state, with that teal favored it more than places like Hot Springs or Pine Bluff. It's not as favored there compared to Arkadelphia, Camden, or Texarkana. Well, let's progress through the morning as we get that daytime heating with the sun rising, and now we're at lunchtime. Well, not only has the ingredients for that hail started to expand into more of the state, we're starting to see those thunderstorms developing. They're moving from the south to the north. Again, this is as a warm front is lifting north through the state, those storms are starting to develop. And where they're starting to develop, we've got some of those whites and those teals. So right now it primarily looks like 1-inch, but still severe size hail. But when we get into those purples, that's again when it's more of the 2-inch size hail possible. And once we get into peak heating in the afternoon, we're starting to see more of those purples get introduced into the map. But at this point, this particular run of our high resolution model is keeping the storms maybe out of the environment where the greatest hail size is possible, but could still see some hail. So at this point, storms primarily in eastern Arkansas based off of this time frame, 4 p.m., 5 p.m. on Monday. We've got the storms off to eastern and southeastern Arkansas where we still have a lot of that blue color. So quarter size, 1 inch hail still possible, but into southwestern Arkansas, western Arkansas, where we have that purple that would indicate 2 inch size hail. We're not seeing storms match up with that location right now. Taking it through the evening, closer to sunset, similar situation, spotty rain coverage. Really, the stronger storms are starting to move out of our vicinity once the sun sets, and we're losing that energy, that instability that was being driven by the sun. And then that front, of course, is moving out of our vicinity as well. We'll continue, though, to have a little bit of juice there for some hail through Tuesday morning, but Tuesday's round of rain and storms won't come until later in the evening and overnight into Wednesday. Again, Tuesday is now considered day 3, so we have a little bit more detail as opposed to what we know for Wednesday, but not as much as what we know for Monday. So this is Tuesday's severe risk map. We have some slight risk across the northwestern part of the state, Little Rock metro area, south and east of that, Pine Bluff to Stuttgart up to Jonesboro and Searcy, and then down to Texarkana and that marginal risk. So for Tuesday evening's event, here in the Little Rock metro, we're not as in high of a severe weather risk as we are for Monday, but there's still room for this to change. So we'll walk through what we know right now, but still want to make sure you're prepared for Tuesday evening as well. Well, let's also look at Wednesday. Because Wednesday, now day 4, even with that long range map, there's that slight risk or 15% chance of severe weather indicated for primarily the southeastern half of the state. So another round of storms is possible on Wednesday. Again, that's why we are putting so much emphasis on the top of the work week, because we'll have multiple rounds of rain moving through. And as those rounds move through, there could be a few thunderstorms. I do see somebody asking which model I'm using. So with this graphic we just used talking about the hail risk and the radar, this is our HER model. The HER model only goes out 48 hours, which is why I was only able to take you out to Tuesday morning, because with the timing of what's coming in Tuesday evening, our HER model doesn't go out that far. What we're going to use though to talk about Tuesday is our graph model. That's our other short range high resolution model that goes out 72 hours. So we get a view of Tuesday with that one. But then Wednesday is still considered long range, so we'll have to use one of our long range models, which is the Euro. When I flip to those pages, you'll see the title of which model I'm using at the top. So let me go back to where I was with, I hope that answered your question, by the way. Let me go back to where I was with Wednesday. So Wednesday is day 4 now. This is where we have that risk set up. I also mentioned at the top marginal flood risk for each day. So Monday, I think Monday the big thing will be the hail threat, because the flood risk, marginal flood risk for extreme southern and southeastern Arkansas. Tuesday, the flood risk is going to be most prevalent in northwest Arkansas. That's where they have a slight risk. Getting into the Arkansas River Valley, north central and west central Arkansas, there is a marginal flood risk. This is Tuesday. And then into Wednesday, that's where most of the state is going to be under at least that marginal flood risk. So I think it's likely that Wednesday will be the day more people get heavy rain as opposed to Monday or Tuesday. So going back to where I was saying, because the graph model goes out 72 hours as opposed to our HER model that only goes out 48 hours, this will take us through Monday and Tuesday. So we'll walk through what Monday looks like again, just from a different perspective, but we also now get to look at Tuesday from the same perspective. So through the rest of this evening, looks like those clouds we were talking about pushes out of here, but more clouds returning by Monday morning. Monday morning, pretty mild temperature wise, because we have a warm front in the vicinity. Temperatures are coming, winds are coming from the south, bringing relatively warmer air. But the big thing is, as we shift from morning to afternoon, that's when storms are starting to fire up in southern Arkansas, moving north and east through the state. As we continue Through your afternoon hours, it does look like this will be primarily based off of this model compared to our other one, that this would be more of a southeastern Arkansas picking up on the impacts Monday, as opposed to the HER model you just saw. It does favor more of that impacting closer to the Little Rock Metro in the most central part of the state. So either way, I do think Monday will be more of a southern, southeastern half of the state being impacted by this compared to if you lived in Clinton or Harrison or Fayetteville. I don't think Monday is the day that you would see as much of the rain or storms as opposed to Tuesday or Wednesday. But as we continue through Monday afternoon and Monday evening, I think by Monday evening when we're approaching sunset, any of the storms we were going to see Monday afternoon have moved east out of the state across the Mississippi River. And then we have a break from any rain Monday night into Tuesday. Much of Tuesday morning is going to be quiet as well. Like I said, it's Tuesday evening and overnight into Wednesday when we would see that next round of storms and potential severe weather. So Tuesday evening, this model run from this morning has those storms starting to approach from the southwest. So coming out of north or East Texas into southwestern Arkansas is what is projected Tuesday evening. And oops, that went too far. Tuesday evening and into Tuesday night. By midnight, doesn't look like there's a lot of those storms. This could be isolated to spotty coverage. Like I said, not everybody is going to pick up on rain, but I think Wednesday is the day where we get better rain coverage. But to look better at Wednesday, we've got to use one of our long range models. So this is Wednesday morning. Starting out mainly as rain showers, but I think through the afternoon with that daytime heating and we get more instability, these pockets of yellow and even some pockets of orange, that would be indication of this is a little bit more than a rain shower. This is a thunderstorm, possibly a strong thunderstorm. That will continue through Wednesday evening, but I think overnight into Thursday, we're pushing that east out of the state and things look drier for Thursday headed into the weekend. So like I said, Monday, the big story or the big threat for Monday is the hail risk, but not everybody is going to get rain. I think Monday is definitely going to be isolated to spotty in coverage, favored over southeastern portions of the state. Tuesday evening into Tuesday night, I definitely see this being a wind event, possibly a hail event, but over north and western portions of the state. And then Wednesday being long range, I think just they highlight that 15% chance of seeing any type of severe parameter, but I do think Wednesday is going to be the biggest day for the heavy rain leading to flooding, especially based off what we saw with those excessive rainfall outlooks. I am going to check the comments again before I go further just to make sure I'm not missing anything from anybody. So I do see somebody asking the question, what is the timing for Wednesday? So based off of this run of our Euro, I think we start Wednesday with some rain showers, but as we get through the day and we get that daytime heating and instability, they transition to possible thunderstorms in the afternoon and evening. Now, as we get into tomorrow and Tuesday and we get information from the graph and the HER, and this is, again, it gives us higher resolution, we can make out specifically more as far as the hail risk like we just were able to do with Monday and the timing of that. But this definitely looks like afternoon into evening, and I don't think this will be a late night event. I think by the time we get to midnight and overnight into Thursday, we're pushing that out of here, hoping to get a dry weekend for next weekend. I hope that answered your question. Let's keep going through the rest of the week. Like I said, the rain is moving out of here from that third round into Thursday morning. Does look like some very light rain chances could build again by the end of the weekend, but day 6, day 7, we'll get better detail on that over the days ahead. But with the 3 rounds of possible showers and storms Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we are expecting a couple of inches at least of rain. Looking across much of our neighbors here in the south, does look like in the next 5 days would be between now and Thursday afternoon. But this is what we're accounting for the top of the week. But again, these blues, these purples, the blues indicating 1 inch to the lighter blues 1.25 inches. the lightest shade of purple, 1.5 to 1.75 inches, and then these darker grapey color purples closer to 2 inches or more. So it does look like over the next couple of days, northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, some of north central Arkansas, and then some of southwestern Arkansas, just western portions of the state primarily, are going to be favored for the heaviest rain. And I think again the heaviest rain comes in Wednesday. Everybody, the whole state though, highlighted in these blues, looks like we could pick up at least another inch of rain over the next couple of days. So at some point, most people are going to get rain. It's just a matter of if you only get rain once out of those 3 days, if you get rain all 3 of those days, just make sure you are prepared over the next couple of days. Have the umbrella handy, keep the jackets with the kids as they go off to school. And also make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts, especially severe weather alerts. Over the weekend, yesterday morning, our first tornado in Arkansas was reported in Nevada County. The National Weather Service office out of Shreveport, Louisiana, sent teams out this morning to conduct surveys. At the timing of us getting the stream together, they had not completed those surveys or put out the information. So the goal is by the 5:30 newscast, I have more information for you as far as where exactly that tornado impacted, how long it was on the ground, estimated path. We'll talk more about that this evening, but I say that to say we've got our first tornado of the year just at the top of this weekend. So I want y'all to take, when we say severe weather, being prepared, the impact of what that could bring, we want you to take that seriously. I don't want you to be scared, but I want you to make sure you take that seriously and you're keeping yourself informed, especially if you're at work or school. You might not necessarily be able to watch us on TV and watch the newscast, but if you have the mobile app and a watch is issued, you get an alert for that. If a warning is issued, you get an alert for that. When you are able to get back home, if you have a smart TV, THV11 Plus is helpful because regardless of if there's a warning or not, we've talked about a new feature we have, that 24/7 radar. You can always, if there's rain happening in the state, see exactly where it is in real time. And then obviously when we do have to break in and bring extra coverage, you're able to watch that on the apps as well. These type of streams, like what I'm doing right now, where there's not necessarily any imminent threat, this is just a prelude to what we could expect. When we have a weather impact alert, we tend to do these ahead of time more frequently as well. So it is very likely that you'll hear from more people on our team between now and Wednesday, bringing you more updates on what to expect. And then obviously in the middle of the event, we're breaking in real time, but a number of resources to be used to stay informed. We lightly touched on this last weekend, wanted to bring it back up again, of just making sure you are prepared in the event of severe weather. Obviously with the timing of a lot of this during the afternoon and evening, people might not necessarily be at home. So consider having a secondary severe weather kit for your car, just for those days where it could possibly catch you off guard and you're out and about. But these are low end risks for the next couple of days. I don't want anybody to be concerned. Again, I just want you to stay aware and informed, because we've seen it happen before. The risk could be very low, 5% chance of a tornado, but you get the right ingredients together. Even if it's considered an EF0 or EF1 tornado, it might not be record breaking, but that is still going to impact somebody. So we want to make sure we are equipped ahead of time to be able to stay as safe as you can when the weather is bringing those impacts. Let's round this out with the overview of the week, and I will leave the floor to any last questions before we head out. We usually make these around 20-25 minutes. So if anybody new is joining that has a question while you're looking at the 7-day, let me know and I can go back to answer something for you. But here's what the week ahead looks like. Monday through Wednesday, again, is what we're paying the most attention to, because we'll have multiple opportunities for rain in the forecast, some of which could be some strong to severe storms. Monday looks like the day where the greatest risk out of the rain and the storms will be the hail. And the timing of that looks like Monday afternoon into early evening. Then we get a little bit of a break Monday night into Tuesday, so you don't have to stay up late Monday night worried about storms. You can go to bed. Tuesday morning is quiet. That next round coming on Tuesday comes Tuesday evening and overnight into Wednesday. So Tuesday night might be the night that you want to leave the ringer on when you go to bed, because we'll see those storms moving through. Tuesday's threat does look primarily like a wind event. Once we get into tomorrow, and Tuesday is considered day 2, we'll have that handy map that is able to break down specifically by impact. But based off of what I've seen, I do think Tuesday, wind and possibly hail as well. I think that is the biggest thing on Monday. Tuesday could be both. Wednesday, I think based off of what we see on Wednesday, which would be Wednesday morning through afternoon, heavy rain. There is marginal flood risk for different parts of the state on both Monday and Tuesday, but Wednesday is the day that we have that across much more of the state. And then again, headed into Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend, mainly dry, very light rain chances by the end of the weekend, but I don't think that would be as impactful as the top of the week. So I'm looking through you guys' questions. Yes, south and southeastern Arkansas for Monday, I'll take you back to Monday's map, would be the best or the most favored part of the state for potential severe weather. So areas primarily south and east of Hot Springs to Little Rock and Stuttgart, make sure you're weather aware, especially in the afternoon and evening, definitely around when you would be picking the kids up from school, or a little bit earlier than that when you would be headed into lunch. Make sure I'm not missing any more questions. Somebody's asking, digital team, if you can hear me, somebody on YouTube is asking about a link to how to download the THV11 Plus app. I don't have that off the top of my hands to reply to them and give that to them. So maybe if one of the digital team can add that info. We do have a link on how to download the THV11 Plus app. As I mentioned before, that is handy, not just when we have warnings, but if there's just rain happening in the state, period, we've got that 24/7 radar where you're able to see where it is. And then obviously when there are active warnings and we have to break in, you're able to watch that. In streams like this, you can watch that on that app as well. But let me again make sure I'm not missing anything else. As always, I appreciate y'all for joining me on these Sunday afternoons. I know people like to take advantage of their weekends, especially today when we got a little bit more sunshine after the rain and storms yesterday. So thank you for making the time to join us. If you have the time to do so, again, we've got our 5:30 newscast coming up in a couple of hours, and then we have our 10 p.m. newscast later. Tonight, I'll have more updates on this week's forecast, but we like to bring these streams in because it gives me an opportunity to be a little bit more in depth with my explanations and answer the questions that I likely can't answer during the newscast because I only get about 3 to 4 minutes. So thanks again for joining me. If you can, I do this every Sunday, regardless of what's happening, and it's just a great opportunity to let you know what's happening in the forecast. So we do these frequently. If you can come see me again, please do so. And in the meantime, enjoy the rest of this afternoon. Take advantage of the extra hour of sunshine today, and we'll see you back here at 5:30.